Hey everyone, I'm CJ, and Kirstie Alley is just one of those people I just don't pay very much attention to. The few times I've ever seen any of her tweets or anything like that, she usually comes off as, I don't know, reasonably intelligent and reasonably witty, and she's just one of those people that does not occupy very much space in my imagination. So when she came out in support of President Trump, I guess at some point I'd put Kirstie Alley down as just another Hollywood liberal. And so what I was saying to people was, look, was I out taking a leak or something when Kirstie Alley became a Republican? The fuck happened? And a lot of people looked at me and they're like, yeah, I don't know if she's, out and out Republican, but she's been pretty open about the fact that she's really not part of the Hollywood liberal cult. She's part of another cult, but she's not part of the Hollywood, like, far left, progressive, communist, whatever you want to call it, cult. She really doesn't get into that. And she's made absolutely no effort to hide that. And how I've gone all this time without knowing any of that, I don't know, except for the fact that, like I say, Kirstie Alley's just not somebody I think very much about. And this, by the way, even when I'm watching Star Trek II Wrath of Khan, she's just not somebody she's just not on my mind. She's not. So like I say, when she came out in support of President Trump, that certainly threw me for a loop. But hey, whatever. People are allowed to vote for whoever or whatever they want to vote for. What difference does it make to me? But it apparently makes a lot of difference to other people, and that's really the thesis that I want to tackle today. Specifically, that SJWs really don't want to admit that a different opinion exists. All right. They really hate acknowledging the fact that somebody can have an opinion that's different from them. Now, you hear that all the time. Well, you don't hear that exactly all the time. What you hear on YouTube all the time is that, or anyone for that matter, is that SJWs, they can't stand the fact that disagreement exists, and I think that's true. But I think that the better and probably more accurate way to phrase it is that it's not that they can't handle disagreement, although they can't. They don't want to admit that disagreement is even possible. And because the minute you say that I disagree, well, obviously you're being kind of erudite about it. You have a different point of view. You've looked at the same set of facts but come to a different conclusion. And this is basically everything that SJWs try to avoid. The reason for that is because for them there is one acceptable policy, there is one acceptable opinion, there is one acceptable party, well, semi acceptable party, and the minute you start nuancing anything, the minute you start saying, well, it's not quite so simple as X, Y, or Z because these other factors, the minute you start complicating this, that's when you find out that maybe one size doesn't fit all, that maybe it's possible for someone to have, in good faith, a different point of view, and that instantly runs contrary to the progressive agenda, because the minute you say that there's more than one way of interpreting the same set of facts, that's one less step you have to take towards saying, well, a different set of policies is probably in order here. And I can't help thinking that's at the real bedrock of SJW paroxysms, especially on Twitter. But we're going to get into that. And honestly, the outrage among SJWs, like civilian SJWs, it's about to everything that Kirstie Alley said. The reaction has been more or less what you'd expect. But even among her own peers, that's where things get kind of interesting, because the abuse this woman has been subjected to by people in her own profession. Like, she's not even getting the professional courtesy of saying, hey, that's Kirstie for you. She's always got a different take on things. Just let it go. She's not even getting that. Marina Sirtis has gone on the record Actually, I'm going to swing back to the whole Star Trek bit in just a minute, but basically, Marina Sirtis she really went, I think, pretty far over the top. Kirstie Alley made one tweet in general to everybody, and I think Marina Sirtis, she basically, it looks like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine tweets, most of which aren't, or some of which aren't even directed at Kirstie Alley, but Kirstie Alley posted one thing. She basically tweeted out one thing, and that somehow resulted in Marina Sirtis tweeting out like nine things. Now, like a lot of you, I've actually met Marina Sirtis at a con, and this woman really is insane. I mean, she has a way of marketing her insanity in a way that's kind of witty and personable and kind of engaging. But don't kid yourself. This woman is fucking nuts. All right, she's insane. And when you meet her, look, I don't know what Marina Sirtis was like when she was actually on The Next Generation, when she was making that show and those movies and everything. For all I know, she was the picture of normalcy, and something about turning 50 just sent her over the deep end. I don't know. All I know is that the two or three times I've ever met her, she sets off my cray craydar. And every time I open up her Twitter, once again, she's setting off my cray craydar. But when you read these, look at this. Somebody posted a political opinion, and Marina Sirtis responds to that by saying, "You are now dead to me. You are also blocked. I don't need to hear your crazed Scientology BS. Hey, Kirsty, next time your electricity goes out, I suggest you call a plumber because that is your demented reasoning. Hashtag batshit crazy." And then she caps this whole thing off with saying, "To be honest, I don't care about her that much to take the time," meaning burning her in effigy. Really? You don't care enough about her to burn her in effigy, but you'll post all of this crazy bullshit? I mean, wow. And if even if Marina Sirtis was alone in this, I mean, I think that kind of proves my point for me. But this kind of goes in, but she's not alone. She's not alone. I mean, other people dogpiled on too. George Takei, because we all know we need to get our political insights from George Takei. But this kind of feeds into, like I say, the mentality that SJWs abide by, where no other point of view can exist because no other point of view is possible. You cannot look at the same set of facts that I'm looking at and reach a different conclusion than I have. That is impossible. It's an impossibility. That cannot happen. And so the fact that it happens anyway, because reality can be cruel like that, the only logical explanation that they can come to is that you are evil. And if they're being really creative, they may even say that you're not a true fan. Marina Sirtis, because she's just apparently the poster girl for all this, she says, "You feel like saying, 'Did you not watch the show?' Because you're saying the exact opposite of what the show represents. It's an oxymoron. A Star Trek fan does not equal a Republican. It doesn't." She goes on to say, "The people who I hear from on social media, I don't get how they can be huge fans of the show and my character and think the way that they do." And she's talking about Republicans here. Basically, if you voted for Trump, or generally if you're just a normie Republican of any kind, how can you be a fan of Star Trek and vote the way that you do? And I would assume that probably holds true for libertarians as well, because when you think about it, there's not a tremendous amount of daylight between libertarianism and conservatism. Some differences, but not really all that much. And so it's like now you're basically talking about, at this point, over 51% of the American electorate between conservatives and libertarians, and I would even say independents. And it's like you're saying that Star Trek has such narrow appeal that there's no possible way somebody can watch that show and get something out of it that's completely different from what you got out of it. It's just nuts. But I mean, this is endemic of social justice warrior thinking. There's only one acceptable interpretation, one acceptable opinion, one acceptable set of facts, therefore only one acceptable policy. And the minute you break too far away from that, you're asking for trouble. So, anyway, bear all of this in mind anytime you have interactions with SJWs, which, by the way, I do not recommend. Don't contact these people. Don't add them. Don't tweet. Don't send them messages. Don't send them smoke signals. Don't do anything. In fact, same thing for Kirstie Alley. Same thing with her. Even if you're listening to this and you're a Trump voter and you think, hey, well, obviously she agrees with me. Well, maybe she doesn't. Maybe leave her alone too. Leave everybody alone. Don't contact these people. I'm just saying, if you want to know, or if you want to get a sort of a window into their thinking and the universe of their reasoning, their logic, why do they say and do the things that they say and do? I think this is a pretty good starting point. But hey, I could be wrong. Either way, that's that. Please comment, like, subscribe, and share. Doing those things really helps me out. Also, I'm on Twitter at Cole Loves Comics.